All right, bowl season is here. Moving on to the second. We got the Cotton Bowl. Tulane taking on USC. USC is only a 2-point favorite in this spot. In total, as you might expect, with kind of the makeup of that USC team, pretty high. Seeing that at 64 here on Sunday night. I have an official play on this game. Shouldn't be a surprise to much of y'all who've watched the channel all year. Tulane +2 is an official 1-unit play for me. This USC defense really hit a lot of their defensive issues throughout the year by forcing turnovers at an elite rate. Some of that's just the quarterbacks they were playing, such as a Drew Pine, who played great against the Trojans, but had some key turnovers. You can call it skill. I'd say a lot of it is luck. And in the Pac-12 championship, this team exposed themselves for who they were. Bad defense. I mean, we knew that secondary was shaky outside of, forcing turnovers. We saw that all year, but I mean, Utah, without their top running back, absolutely dominated USC in the run game throughout that second half. I actually think Tulane's a pretty similar offense to Utah. The one thing I think they do much better, though, is they consistently run the football. I mean, Tajay Spears for Tulane this year, 6.5 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns, almost 1,400 yards. I mean, this is a true bell cow back that also has that unique ability to house some of those runs that, other backs can't. So I think Tulane's going to be able to run the ball, pretty well in this matchup. Their quarterback, Michael Pratt, he's not really a world beater, but I will say he does take care of the football, which is imperative going up against USC, because if you can do that, you're probably going to have success. 25 touchdowns to 5 picks this year. 8.5 yards per attempt is plenty for me to trust him in the vertical passing game in this spot. I know USC is probably as healthy as they've been on this side of the ball in a while with Gentry kind of coming back into the fold, but it's an 11-man game. I think Tulane's going to be able to run the ball here. Pratt's going to take care of the football. And ultimately, I think Tulane's going to be able to extend and finish drives. Now, listen, I understand that there's a natural resistance to want to bet against a guy like Caleb Williams, won the Heisman Trophy. We know how good of an offensive coach Lincoln Riley is. 3 Heisman winners and only 6 years as a head coach. I get that. I will say USC is not at 100% right now offensively. Their number one wideout, Jordan Addison, he opted out. But probably more importantly, 2 offensive linemen that have been mainstays throughout the season won't play in this game. Their center got hurt in the Pac-12 championship, and then they had another starter that opted out for this game as well. So not at full strength on that side of the ball. Another thing I think proved huge in the Pac-12 championship, not having Travis Dye. I felt like he was an extremely invaluable piece to what they did in the running game. He obviously got hurt late in the year when they played Colorado. They were able to make it through games like UCLA, and I was impressed with the way they ran the ball against Notre Dame. But in that Pac-12 championship, 15 carries for 35 yards. I think we started to see some of that regression. Saw Caleb Williams have to carry more of the load, but not being 100% on your offensive line, and then, not having as good of a run game as you had for most of the season, it doesn't help Caleb Williams' case. I think this is the best defense that USC has played all year. You can make the argument for Notre Dame or Oregon State. I don't think Utah is as good as Tulane's defense. I have Tulane power rated higher than any other defense USC has played this year. Pass rush is not really a staple of what they do. They're solid. I think they'll be able to take advantage of those 2 starters being out for USC, but it's really that back 7. I mean, they've held guys down like Deuce Vaughn, Frank Gore Jr., Keaton Mitchell. They can step up against anybody in the run game, and I think they'll do so here. Obviously, you're going up against the Heisman winner. Caleb Williams is going to get his. I think this is a really good secondary, though, and we saw when Caleb Williams had to play an Oregon State secondary, for example. In my opinion, this is just not the best spot for USC. I think Tulane is a more complete team because they play defense. And if USC is not forcing some of these fluky turnovers, they don't. The Pac-12 championship game is the perfect example. So I did fire on Tulane +2. Usually I try to fade USC's defense and try to avoid Caleb Williams being Caleb Williams. The issue is sometimes Tulane, they can do what they want to offensively and not necessarily light up the scoreboard. I think they'll hold the ball a lot in this game. I think they'll be really efficient on 3rd down with that overall balance they have with how good their defense has played all year. I'm willing to trust them over the full game. So give me Tulane +2. Couldn't play an under here. We've obviously talked about USC's defense, and I'm making this bet knowing, Caleb Williams is going to make some plays in this game. It just comes down to I don't trust the other areas of this USC team. I wouldn't want to be on an under here. I'm not going to worry about that side of things. Tulane +2, an official 1-unit play for me.